It's funny how we spend almost our entire lives building these incredibly elaborate sandcastles.
Totally.
Like we carefully pack the wet sand, we shape the little defensive towers, we dig the moat,
Right.
all while sitting with our backs facing the water, just pretending we can't hear the ocean tide roaring right behind us.
Yeah, just completely ignoring the inevitable, right?
Exactly. Well, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we have a genuinely profound one tailored just for you.
We really do.
We're looking at this really fascinating piece of audio exploring something called the third gene key. And our mission today is to, well, turn around and look right at that roaring ocean.
I love that.
We are going to map out the ultimate dilemma of human existence, which is basically our relationship with change, and trace the journey from the shadow of chaos through the messy gift of innovation all the way to the ultimate state of innocence.
It really is the ultimate dilemma, isn't it? I mean, that sandcastle metaphor perfectly captures the human condition.
Yeah.
Because we put so much daily energy into pretending the tide isn't coming for our structures. And the material we are diving into today looks at the very nature of change itself.
Right, the core of it.
Yeah. Like in the ancient Chinese text, the I Ching, which translates to the Book of Changes, the hexagram associated with this concept is called difficulty at the beginning.
Difficulty at the beginning.
Exactly. And that feeling of difficulty, that fundamental resistance to things shifting, is something every single one of us feels deep in our bones.
Oh, for sure.
But before we get too far, we should probably ground this for anyone who isn't steeped in the terminology. When we talk about a gene key, we are referring to a philosophical framework that synthesizes genetics, the I Ching, and various mystical traditions.
Kind of like a map.
Right, exactly. It creates a map of human consciousness.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because that resistance to shifting you just mentioned is the core tension for you listening to this right now. We all deeply, deeply hate change. We fight it tooth and nail.
We really do.
But, as the Buddha stated thousands of years ago, the only true constant in the universe is change. Impermanence is the rule.
Yeah, the absolute rules.
So why, if it's the fundamental law of the universe, does change make us so incredibly uncomfortable?
Well, to understand that discomfort, we have to examine a concept referred to as the dilemma of clinging.
The dilemma of clinging.
Right. We have this deeply ingrained knee-jerk reaction against the natural flow of life. When change comes knocking, we instinctively just grab onto the structures around us.
Because it feels safe.
Exactly. Structure gives us the illusion of security. We surround ourselves with things that serve as, well, the source calls them anchor points.
Anchor points. Wow, that paints such a clear picture.
It does, right. And these anchor points, they make up the fabric of our daily lives.
Like what, for example?
There are morning routines, our prized possessions, our job titles, our habits, and perhaps most importantly, our relationships. We tether our very sense of identity to these things. We tell ourselves this story. As long as my job is secure, as long as my partner is there, as long as I have my house and my routine, I am safe.
Right, I'm insulated from the world.
Exactly. And that story works for a little while. But underneath all those tethers, there is a subtle, humming undercurrent of anxiety.
Because we know it's an illusion.
Exactly. Because on some level, we know the tide is coming. That undercurrent of low-grade perpetual anxiety is the shadow of chaos.
Now, wait a second. I am going to push back on this idea just a little bit.
Sir, go for it.
Because describing my children or my marriage as mere anchor points that I cling to out of fear, that sounds almost cynical, doesn't it?
I can see how it sounds that way.
Yeah, I think anyone listening would argue that loving your family or being dedicated to your career is a profoundly good thing.
Yeah.
How can deeply loving the people closest to you be classified as a shadow or be a source of chaos?
Right.
It just feels like it's punishing us for having a heart,
What's fascinating here is that the framework makes a very clear, crucial distinction between love and attachment.
Oh, okay.
The issue is never the love itself. True love is expansive. The issue is that the love most of us practice is, well, it's incomplete.
Incomplete.
Yeah, and it is heavily tainted by fear.
Tainted by the fear of losing the people we love.
That is the core of it, yeah. We tend to grip the things we love the most with a very tight fist. But that tight grip, that clinging, is actually the thing that creates the interference in our lives.
Ah, I see.
The framework connects this specific behavior to another concept called the 50th gene key, which explores the spectrum between corruption and harmony.
Corruption and harmony.
Right. We're essentially corrupted by these illusory anchors because our affection hasn't quite evolved into unconditional love. It's conditional.
Conditional on them staying the same?
Exactly. It relies on the people we love staying exactly as they are,
Right.
and our circumstances never shifting.
Which is impossible.
Right. So when those anchors are inevitably threatened by time or circumstance, it doesn't actually create new chaos. It simply reveals the hidden chaos that was already bubbling inside us all along.
I see the distinction now. So the hurricane isn't the external event itself.
No. Yeah.
The hurricane is the sudden realization that we were never actually anchored to anything solid in the first place. We were just gripping the sandcastle.
That is exactly it.
You know, while reviewing the material, I came across this incredibly memorable anecdote about this exact realization, and I just have to share it with you.
Oh, please do. I love this one.
Yeah, the speaker talks about sitting with a very wise old friend, and they're taking a mind-altering substance and just gazing out at this wonderful, sweeping view of nature.
Sounds pretty idyllic.
Right, and they would fall into these profound, magical, expansive silences. And right in the middle of one of these beautiful silences, the old man just blurts out in this deep, booming voice, "All roads lead to death."
Oh, man. Is the ultimate spoiler alert to the human illusion of security, isn't it?
It really is.
Nothing disrupts our desperate clinging, quite like the stark reminder of our own mortality.
It shatters the whole illusion. And the speaker describes having a brief moment of internal recoil, you know, that natural human flinch against mortality.
Of course.
But then they just erupt into a giant belly laugh. They both just sat there and laughed and laughed. And that belly laugh is presented as the only authentic, healthy response to the reality of change.
Yeah, you really have to let the truth of impermanence all the way in.
You do.
Because when you finally do that, when you truly accept that all roads lead to that ultimate change, the physical tension of clinging simply breaks.
The sandcastle falls down.
Yeah. That laughter is the sound of the ego realizing how utterly ridiculous it is to try and hold back the ocean tide with a tiny plastic shovel.
A tiny plastic shovel, yeah.
But stepping into that realization and actively releasing those anchors is terrifying.
Yeah.
The journey won't feel safe in the beginning.
No, I imagine it wouldn't.
You will likely feel a deep physical discomfort in your belly. That sensation is quite literally the vibration of your attachment breaking down.
Wow.
Just imagine yourself for a moment without any of your anchor points. No job title to introduce yourself with, no relationships to define your role, no possessions to signal your status, maybe not even your name.
Just a blank slate.
Right. Who are you in that space?
That is a terrifying void to look into. I mean, genuinely terrifying.
It is.
But the argument here is that if clinging to those anchors only traps us in this subtle, anxious chaos anyway, the only real way out is to deliberately pull up the anchors and let the chaos fully in.
Exactly. Chaos is consistently misunderstood as the enemy.
Right. We always try to fix it.
But chaos is actually the chaotic process of coming back into harmony. When you start projecting your inner turmoil onto your outer life, when you stop trying to frantically micromanage your circumstances just to feel a fleeting sense of safety,
To just let go.
you let go and you allow chaos to act as a womb. And what that womb eventually gives birth to is the next vital phase of the journey, innovation.
Innovation. Which completely flips our traditional understanding of what chaos actually serves to do.
It completely flips it.
The material reminds us of the old scientific adage that nature abhors a vacuum. Life constantly needs to expand, to experiment, to fill the void.
Yes.
And there is a hilarious, incredibly relatable story used to illustrate this point about a kitchen table experiment.
Oh, the empty table is such a perfect microcosm for this human urge.
It really is. So the speaker mentions having this beautiful, massive wooden kitchen table, and as an adult, they love seeing it perfectly clear.
Right, the minimalist aesthetic.
Exactly. They appreciate the beauty of an empty space. But they have 3 young children, and the moment those kids walk into the room and see that vast, clear table, it's as if a genetic trigger goes off in their brains.
It's pure instinct.
Pure instinct. They immediately throw open the cupboards and drag out papers, pens, toys, entirely random objects just to fill the space. The void simply cannot remain empty in the presence of life.
It's a wonderful image because it demonstrates how profoundly natural that urge is.
Right?
The child embraces chaos effortlessly, without any of our adult hang-ups. They don't fear the void or view it as a loss.
No, they just see an opportunity.
Exactly. They see an empty table as an invitation to play. They take what they know, scatter it into the void, and recombine the pieces in entirely new, unpredictable ways.
And here's where it gets really interesting. That childlike urge to play, to throw random things onto the table and just see what happens, is exactly how biological mutation works.
Yes, on a cellular level.
Right. DNA replication is essentially just cellular innovation. It is life repeating a known pattern, but spontaneously introducing a change just to see if the new combination survives better.
Exactly.
I do have to bring up a really heavy, difficult question the material wades into here.
Sure, let's hear it.
It calls cellular mutations and specifically references cancer as an innovation on the evolutionary path.
Right.
The suggestion is that life is constantly trying to figure out how to create an immortal body, and cancer is just a failed innovation on that grand path. I struggled with this, honestly.
It's a very challenging concept.
Yeah. Isn't it incredibly detached and, frankly, a bit cold to view something so deeply destructive and heartbreaking to millions of families simply as a biological experiment?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it asks us to zoom out to a scale that is almost unfathomable to our daily, localized grief.
Okay.
The framework is asking us to look at life from the grand perspective of evolution itself. The metaphor used is an acorn.
An acorn?
Yeah, an acorn contains a hidden plan, an intricate blueprint to eventually become a towering oak tree. It innovates relentlessly to reach that goal.
Right.
From the perspective of evolution, life acts like that acorn, relentlessly striving to perfect its form. But to find the precise combination that works, life fundamentally has to figure out all the combinations that don't work.
So you were saying it is a process of trial and error on a massive cosmic scale.
That is the philosophical lens being applied here, yes.
Yeah.
Cancer cells, in this grand scheme, ultimately fail because they act selfishly.
They act selfishly.
Right. They go against the harmony of the whole organism, consuming the host until the host collapses.
Wow, okay.
But on an evolutionary timeline spanning millions of years, even those devastating failures provide the biological key for life to understand how not to do things.
They're data points.
Exactly. They pave the way for bigger, more sustainable breakthroughs down the line. The secret mechanism driving this innovation is coherence.
Coherence?
Yes. Life is constantly trying to create a tiny pocket of coherence amidst the swirling chaos. The ultimate order already exists hidden inside the chaos, just like the sprawling oak tree is folded inside the tiny acorn. Innovation is just a messy unfolding mechanism.
So if evolution is this relentless churning machine of trial and error, constantly throwing things on the kitchen table to create pockets of coherence, where is it actually heading for human consciousness?
That's the big question.
Right. If the acorn becomes the oak tree, what is our ultimate destination? The map points us to the third stage of this journey, which is innocence.
Yes. The destination is characterized by an unutterable joy of play. It is a state of being completely unburdened.
The imagery used to describe this ecstasy is just breathtaking.
It really is.
First, there is a mental experiment about a physicist postulating how a universe like ours gets created in the first place.
Oh, I love this part.
It's so cool. The thought experiment suggests that all it takes is for a single proton to escape the bounds of its reality and slip into a deep, endless void.
Just one proton.
Just one. And that tiny proton, faced with the immensity of absolute nothingness, would delight in its own sudden freedom and expansion so much that its sheer unrestrained joy would birth an entirely new universe.
Wow.
A whole universe born out of a single proton's delight.
It beautifully echoes the children at the kitchen table, you know. The void doesn't inspire terror. It invites the dance.
Yes. And the second image grounds that cosmic idea in something so wonderfully earthly. The setting is South Devon in England, which is this lush, green, bucolic farming country.
Right.
Picture these massive, heavy, placid dairy cows lazily drifting around a muddy enclosure all winter long. But then spring comes, and the farmer finally opens the gate to a fresh, untouched green pasture.
It is the ultimate release for them.
It is. These huge, lumbering animals suddenly transform into giant, jumping puppies.
Right.
They rush into the field, prancing, kicking their heavy legs in the air, climbing on each other with complete abandon.
It's pure joy.
That ecstatic release, that untamed, thoughtless joy of stepping into a fresh, expansive space, that physical feeling is what the state of innocence is supposed to feel like for human consciousness.
We do have to tread carefully with that word, though.
Innocence.
Yeah, because in modern language, we usually associate innocence with being naive or gullible.
True. Like a babe in the woods.
Exactly. The framework relies on the mystic poet William Blake and his profound work, Songs of Innocence and Experience, to explain that there is a duality to innocence.
Okay, a duality.
You have what we could call ignorant innocence, which is the state of a newborn baby, A baby beautifully expresses its pure nature, but it has no real self-awareness. It doesn't know it's innocent.
Because it hasn't had to face the chaos of the world yet. It hasn't had its anchor points ripped away.
That is the vital difference. Then on the other end of the spectrum, there is wise innocence.
Wise innocence.
Yes. This is the innocence of an elder, someone who has walked the long road, experienced the pain, the travail, the devastating loss of those anchor points, and yet despite all the reasons to close off, their heart has somehow reopened.
Wow.
Wise innocence has come full circle. It holds the shadow of suffering and the light of joy simultaneously.
That's beautiful.
It is. That dynamic is why grandparents and grandchildren often share such a profound, almost magical bond that skips the middle generation entirely.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Right. They are both operating in the exact same resonant field of innocence, just sitting at different ends of the spectrum of awareness.
I love that idea of the generational bond, but it brings up the hardest part of this entire framework.
Okay.
If we start with ignorant innocence as an infant, and the ultimate goal is to eventually reach wise innocence as a deeply aware elder, how are you and I supposed to navigate the incredibly painful, tragic middle of life right now?
The messy middle.
The text gently calls this period the journey or the passage, but being in the middle often just feels like relentless suffering.
This raises an important question. How can we possibly cultivate playfulness or wise innocence when there is so much obvious suffering, injustice, and genuine tragedy in the world?
Not exactly. You can't just ignore it.
No, you can't just slap a smile on your face and make a joke out of everything. That is just another form of denial.
Right.
To answer this, we have to look at the ancient Sanskrit concept of Leela, which translates roughly to the divine play. And the wordplay here has a very deliberate dual meaning.
Dual meaning.
Yeah. It means a theater, a drama with real stakes and real sorrow, but it also suggests an underlying playfulness.
So you are supposed to hold the reality of the tragedy and the playfulness of the universe at the exact same time? That sounds impossible.
It is difficult, but the key is locating where that playfulness actually resides.
Where does it reside?
The playfulness isn't supposed to be a mask you wear on your face. It has to reside deep in your inner awareness. You can be actively grieving on the outside. You can be dealing with a very real, visceral tragedy of the human experience, feeling the anger and the sadness.
Right.
But on the inside, deep down, there is a quiet awareness of the grand play unfolding. That inner awareness gives you just a fraction of an inch of distance.
Just a tiny bit of space.
Exactly. It allows you to participate fully in the messy emotions of life without being utterly destroyed by the plot twists.
So what does this all mean for us practically? How do we actually tap into that elusive inner awareness while we are busy paying mortgages and dealing with heartbreak?
That's the trick, isn't it?
Yeah. There is a brilliant analogy used here involving Shakespeare's Hamlet. In the play, Hamlet famously puts on a play within the play to catch the conscience of the king.
Right.
So the audience in the theater is watching actors who are watching other actors perform a tragedy. It is layers of illusion.
Layers upon layers.
So the question posed to us is, who is watching us? This ties into a concept called the codon ring of living and dying. To explain that simply, it is essentially the genetic and mystical programming that binds our consciousness to the physical drama of life. It makes us believe the movie is entirely real.
We get so caught up in it.
We do. Our whole human drama, the suffering, the striving, the grasping for sandcastles, is the play generated by this programming.
And stepping into wise innocence, waking up to that inner awareness, is akin to the moment the lights finally come on in the cinema.
I love that feeling. You know, that deeply disorienting sensation when an intense emotional movie ends, the house lights suddenly snap on and you rub your eyes? For 2 straight hours, you were completely lost in the illusion. Your heart was pounding, you were stressed about the characters, you might have even been crying.
Totally immersed.
And then you blink, look at the spilled popcorn on the floor and realize, oh, right, I am just sitting in a chair. I am completely safe.
It's such a relief.
The revelation here is that your consciousness is outside the movie. Your consciousness is the observer in the chair. It is deathless.
That is the ultimate liberating revelation of the third gene key. When your consciousness finally remembers that it is deathless, that it is just sitting in the theater watching the Leela, the divine play, what does it naturally do?
It laughs.
It giggles. It inwardly giggles at how intensely seriously it took the whole dramatic narrative.
Yeah.
It realizes that the end of the movie isn't actually the end of existence. The human mind frantically demands an ending. It needs closure, but the heart knows there is no such thing as an ending.
No ending at all.
The eternal truth of who you are must lie far beyond the frantic grasping of the lower mind.
So to summarize this incredible, sweeping journey we have been on today, we start by recognizing our desperate clinging, the way we constantly build fragile anchor points out of a fear of impermanence, and we see how that clinging only leaves us trapped in the low-grade anxiety of the shadow of chaos.
Exactly.
But when we somehow find the courage to pull up those anchors and face the void, we allow that chaos to become a fertile space for innovation. We embrace the messy, beautiful trial and error process of evolution itself.
We let the kids play at the kitchen table.
We let them play. And finally, by creating tiny pockets of coherence and trusting the unfolding process, we reach the state of wise innocence, that joyous, unburdened, deathless state where we realize we are simply the eternal awareness watching the play unfold.
And in that realization, we understand that even the chaos, even the devastating failures, and even the deepest tragedies are all essential parts of the overarching harmony. Everything is swept up and included in the field of innocence.
To bring it all together, before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a thought built right on the very end of this profound material.
Oh, I'm curious.
Because at the close of the audio, the speaker reaches this incredible peak of wise innocence, tries to summarize the sheer eternity of it all for the listener, and then suddenly just stops speaking.
They just stop.
They realize their words are entirely failing to capture the magnitude of the feeling, and they suggest that we should all just surrender and enjoy the silence.
Wow.
So here's a final question for you to mull over today. If wise innocence ultimately leads to a state where words completely fail us, and we are content to simply enjoy the silence, could it be that our modern obsession with constantly communicating, endlessly analyzing, and articulating every single one of our feelings is exactly what keeps us trapped in the messy middle of the play?
That is quite the question.
What if your highest, most profound breakthrough won't come from finally finding a perfect, articulate way to explain your reality to the world, but from the quiet, joyful refusal to explain it at all?
Just let the tide wash away the sandcastle.
Stop rebuilding the walls, turn around, and just listen to the roar of the ocean. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Catch you on the next one.